Here's a riddle. What's the one thing as a human that to do it, you pretend to do it? It's not speaking French. It's sleeping. And that's really frustrating, that the only thing it says in the instructions manual is sleep, do it. If you found your way to this video, it's probably because you struggle with sleep issues, whether you have in the past or you're dealing with an episode right now. I have been there and it sucks. I don't want to waste your time, so let's dive right into it. One opinion I have that might be kind of unpopular is a lot of the sleep hacks out there meant to beat insomnia actually are kind of unimpressive and ineffective. The common advice is set a sleep schedule. Make sure your room is dark. Make sure your room is cold enough. Make sure that there's minimal noise. Consider using a sleep mask. Maybe use a sleep tracker. The thing is, if you're struggling with your sleep, you've tried all of those things, right? We're not dumb. We have the internet. We have a problem, we Google how to solve it, and we try the first 5 or 10 things that we see on there. And maybe it works, but probably it doesn't. And that's really frustrating and can lead into the really unfortunate spiral of sleep anxiety, right? You're not getting enough sleep, you worry about getting sleep, you get less sleep. The word insomnia is battered about everywhere nowadays, and it's kind of a problem because it has a clinical meaning that's really pretty severe. I would say unhelpfully severe. Depending on who you ask, the clinical definition of insomnia is that you struggle to get asleep, stay asleep, or get good quality sleep 3 nights a week, at least, for at least 3 months. That is a lot of missed sleep. If I get 1 or 2 nights in a row of suboptimal sleep, I am not my best self and I'm going to be complaining to anyone and everyone. I'm going to be looking to get that rectified ASAP. But often to get clinical help beyond the home remedies that you find yourself on Google, you need to meet something like that clinical definition. And while people suffering under that clinical definition are truly suffering, that excludes a lot of us that need help with our sleep, but don't have it quite badly enough to meet that clinical definition. So in this video today, I'm not going to be sharing those standard tips that you can Google for yourselves, because you can Google them for yourselves, and you probably already have. I want to talk about sleep and insomnia more generally, with the overarching goal of hopefully lessening your sleep anxiety and giving you some avenues to explore that you might not have yet. So I've mentioned the current Googleable treatments that are supposed to work and might work, but if you're here, probably haven't worked. But just in case you haven't tried these, it is worth making sure that you've taken a look at your sleep hygiene, your sleep environment, make sure your room is dark, cold, quiet, maybe with white noise, avoid screen time before bed, consider meditation, relaxation techniques, breath work. But let's say that you've tried all that and you're still struggling. What can we do? Well, the current modern gold standard treatment for insomnia uses cognitive behavioral therapy. You might have heard of CBT for treating other conditions like anxiety, OCD, or depression, but this really powerful technique can also be used for those of us with sleep issues. Roughly speaking, cognitive behavioral therapy trains you to spot patterns of thinking that are not helping you, interrupt them, and replace them with a more helpful internal narrative. How to apply this towards your own internal attitudes towards sleep is way beyond my pay grade, but this is a whole topic that is worth Googling in its own right. There are lots of resources out there that I'd encourage you to check out, whether on your own or working with a qualified therapist. Other options include light therapy, trying to reset your body's circadian clock by exposing it to bright light in the morning. And there's also wearable sleep tech that goes beyond just an Apple Watch, that can involve some sort of biofeedback back into your body and brain to help regulate your sleep cycles. You can also speak to your doctor about getting some sort of pharmaceutical intervention, but this will generally be a short-term treatment and not a long-term fix. Another treatment that I find really interesting is the idea of sleep restriction therapy. That sounds kind of counterintuitive, right? You're trying to get more sleep, but the therapy is going to restrict the amount of sleep that you get. This should only be done under the supervision of a trained professional, but the idea is, say you're lying in bed for 8 hours a night, but you're only getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Well, we're going to restrict the time window in which we allow your body to get that amount of sleep. Instead of lying there for 8 hours, we're only going to let your body lie there for 5 or 6 hours. After a string of nights of this, your body starts to kind of ping back and realize, oh, I am not getting enough sleep, I better go to sleep in this time window. To me, there are certain parallels with intermittent fasting or time-restricted feeding. If you're only allowing yourself to eat food in a 4-hour time window each day, you're gonna have to eat a lot more food in that window to make sure that you're getting your calories. It's not really the same thing at all, but I find it helpful to think about this sleep restriction therapy in a similar sort of way. Your body is wanting a certain amount of sleep and you're only giving it a smaller window to get that sleep. So it's going to tighten things up as much as possible and make sure it gets the sleep that it needs and wants in that smaller window. The goal is to eventually have you be sleeping for 8 hours a night, not the mere 5 or 6 that your body was giving you before. As you find that you're sleeping for more and more of that 5-hour window, you set your sleep schedule to have a slightly longer window, and the hope is that your body keeps going and fills up that sleep window with actual sleep. Again, you don't want to be experimenting with this by yourself. You should definitely be working with a trained professional. But I think it's a really interesting idea and something that is potentially a lot more impactful than, say, investing in another $10 white noise machine. So we've talked about things that are supposed to work, but maybe don't work that well for you. Let's cover some things that absolutely don't work and you shouldn't rely on for sleep, and will just make your sleep situation worse. As tempting as it is to rely on sedatives like sleeping pills or alcohol, unless your doctor has prescribed them, and I don't think they're prescribing you alcohol, be really careful here. They really interrupt the biological process of your sleep. And although on paper it looks like you're getting eyes shut, head on pillow time, what you're doing is actually quite different from sleep, and it's not nearly as restorative for your body and mind. So, underline, don't rely on alcohol or sedatives to trick your body into unconsciousness. Speaking to myself and anyone else who will listen, don't obsess over sleep trackers. There are so many options out there nowadays, from smart alarm clocks to things you can wear to apps on your phone. They can be really useful, especially if you're trying to get a handle on what's going on and communicate it to your doctor, but don't obsess over that data and don't trust that data too much. A lot of the things that these devices and apps are reporting back to you can only really be reliably measured in a sleep lab, with your brain and body hooked up to lots of different medical grade devices. All that is to say, keep these trackers and the data they provide in context. Don't let them freak you out and give you more sleep anxiety. Also, don't toss and turn indefinitely in bed when you're struggling to sleep. That starts to teach your body that your bed is somewhere that you don't sleep. But it definitely is. So you want to unlearn that as soon as possible. So if you find that you're lying there unable to sleep, it's counterintuitive, it might even feel counterproductive, but get up, go and do something else. Maybe read, make yourself a warm drink, come back to bed and try again later. That can be really frustrating when it's night 6 and all you want to do is sleep, but you start to get to the point where you need to shake your body out of that habit of tossing and turning rather than sleeping. Insomnia is probably something that people have been struggling with as long as we've been sleeping. So that is to say, forever. There are lots of cures from history that were not cures, and we shouldn't be tricked into trying them by a viral TikTok. Hard drugs like opium and laudanum. Knocking yourself out is not the same as sleep. See my note earlier about alcohol and sleeping pills. Bloodletting is also a tried and failed treatment for just about any ailment that humanity has suffered over the centuries. It has been tried for insomnia also. I would encourage you to not try it. It does not work for insomnia, unless you lose so much blood that you, again, pass out artificially. Let's not try that, guys. A really novel, slightly more modern idea was the idea of electrotherapy, in that shocking your brain might help it reset its sleep cycles. This one's a little bit more tempting because there are genuine modern uses for electrotherapy, but insomnia is not one of them. Sorry. So, I'm not sure why I'm saying sorry. I hate to break it to you, don't shock yourself. Don't shock yourself ever. Electrotherapy should only be done under the watchful supervision and person in charge being a physician, please. This one sounds real fun. Drinking a warm beer before bed doesn't work, but people throughout history have tried it and thought it helped. Again, alcohol is a sedative. A nice warm beer in your belly might sound quite tempting, but it's not doing anything for your insomnia. After food, water, and air, sleep is basically the most fundamental human need. If you're not getting enough of it, your body's gonna let you know pretty quickly, and that sucks. My intention with this video is not to magically cure your insomnia, because we all know that's unfortunately not possible. But what I wanted to convey to you is that you're not alone in this, and you should have hope that things can be better and keep trying. There are a ton of ways out there to improve your sleep outlook, whether on your own or working with a professional. It doesn't have to be something that you struggle through interminably, and there are people out there who want to help you. If it's 2 a.m. where you happen to be right now and you're not waiting up for a sleep restriction therapy window to begin, please, I'd encourage you to say goodnight, start your wind down routine, try to give yourself the rest that you deserve. And I'll see you in the morning.